Good day everybody, thank you for joining me on the channel. In today's content we will be trying to pinpoint the local low for IXS. Nothing that I say is financial advice. Let's dive into the content. So when in doubt, we zoom out. Looking at IXS and actually continuing on for my coverage, which was back in May. I last released an update in May and we was currently at prices of around 16 to 20 cents. Now there was this orange line here on the 0382 at 16 cents that needed to hold to validate that we was looking for a push higher. Now what we've actually seen here is a rollover where the last few months have come back down and filled in this massive wick from January of 2025 and some. Now you can see on this Fibonacci tool here, going from the current high of April 2024 and retracing back down to the low of October 2023, we have seen a loss of structure from the 0236, the 0382, and as of this month, we are losing the 050. Now, the next key level of support, if we are to see September close below the 050, would be the 0618 at 0.05, so roughly around 5 cents. And I think that this area would have a great opportunity to mark the low for this correction if we cannot reclaim the 050 at 0.09. In my last video, at roughly around, I think it was about 6 minutes 45 in, back in May, I was looking at this rollover, filling in this wick and potentially coming to 0.09 to complete this correction. Okay, but you can see we are getting this strong push down. So you've got roughly just over a week left to try and get the candle close above the 050 in order to invalidate the rollover to the 0618. But the 0618, I think, would offer a great opportunity. And you can see that if you scroll this target over to the left, it's in fact bringing the project back down to this high of April 2023 within this falling wedge structure. Now, it's worth noting, and I said this in the previous video as well, from October 2023 up to April 2024, so in the space of, you're looking about 6 months, IXS rallied 11,000%. So it placed a 110x. So there's no sort of surprise that having this sort of large correction was to sort of follow suit. And you can see from that high, it is down roughly 92%. But again, with the sort of market cap size it is, I think it's around 15 million, if I'm not misunderstood. It's about 13 million at the moment. This is a relatively small cap and is very, very exposed to volatile market swings. You had you had an 11,000% move here, and now you've had a 92% correction since such. So, you know, at the moment, I think that this is a wave count as well, where potentially it's trying to bottom out within a 5-wave correction. You've got this 1, this 2, this potential 3, which led to a 4. And right now, I think we're in this 5th wave trying to find the bottom here. So I think that this 0618 does have a good chance of actually being hit in some point in September, October, and it could mark the low only if this 050, we see the close below it in September this month. So one other thing to note is that the stock RSI on the monthly time frame has been oversold for a very long time. We actually entered these levels in January 2025, and you can see that for the last sort of 6 to 7, 8 months, we've been in this oversold area on the stock RSI. And I think if we look at the weekly time frame as well, we are still at the same time since sort of July 2025 in very, very oversold territory. So I do feel like that the selling pressure will eventually start to ease off, and we may see some relief here on the weekly and monthly time frames, but it's all about closing above 0.09 in September. Failing that, the 0618 is where I would expect this correction to complete. Now, we do also have the super trend. Okay, we have the super trend indicator, which when you're below this red line in the super trend, this is a downtrend. And you can see we had this green arrow slash flip, which was back in December of 2023, which indicated a very strong uptrend. Now, since then, we have had or entered this correction. And what we could potentially see, if I remove the fibs here very quickly, what we could potentially see is this wave 5 correction actually come back and retest this flat line of the super trend. So we're actually still in a bullish super trend, regardless of this 92% correction, believe it or not. And actually coming back down to the flat line may also give the opportunity to mark the low. Now, this sits at 4 cents. So will it get that deep of a retracement? Who knows? But if we scroll over to the left once again and we drag this green bar down to where the super trend actually sits, what you'll notice is, again, it brings us back down to these highs from March of 2023. So potentially we could get this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave correction back down towards 0.05/4, retest the super trend, and also come back to that 0.618 that we had. It would be sweeping it a little bit more, but you can see the 5 cents sits very close to this super trend indicator bullish trend line. So I think coming back down there would also give the potential of marking this correction complete. Now, targets, if we do come back that low, if we do retest somewhere around this area, roughly around 5 cents, if we do complete the correction on these previous highs, going back up to the all-time high, I think that IXS does have the potential to still push towards $2 to $3, and at max, the 1618 I do believe is currently at $6.27. So if we do lowball out roughly within this area, I think that these are the potential targets that we could see IXS meet in the next sort of 6 to 9 months potentially. Okay, so you're looking between $2 to $6 with an average of roughly $3 in between at the 1414. I did have previous targets looking at sort of $15, I do believe, which was my last update, and how I achieved those was by going from the all-time low back to the all-time high, and you can see that the 1618 kind of sits at $15. But I think what is worth mentioning, that this was more of a bullish thesis. If we could have held sort of 15 to 16 cents, and if we could have held this at this point and sort of then look to go for the break, I think that $15, $16 target would have been achievable. But since my last update, we have had quite a major rollover here and a large correction, which again is going to be harder to sort of recover those gains and push to that $15 target. So I do think somewhere between $3 to $6 is a nice sort of area to kind of look for. And if we do get the retracement back down towards sort of 0.04/5, you'd be looking at still looking at a sort of minimum 40 to 60 to 100x still on the project if it did actually get to those targets. So I think just to stay conservative, $2, if this high is broken from April 2024 and price discovery is entered, I think a minimum $2 will be hit, and then you've got the $3 to $6 potentials up there for higher targets. I hope you've enjoyed the content from Chart Nerd TA. Take care. Peace out.